Hello and welcome to part 10 of my 100-day drawing challenge for 2019. This week the 7 prompts were the colours of the rainbow, plus a rainbow prompt at the end. So basically this week I just had a lot of fun coming up with different character designs and different ways to draw characters themed after a single colour. So prompt number 63 was red. I wasn't really 100% sure what style I wanted to go for these prompts, but I just started sketching with red and I came up with a kind of style that I ended up trying to carry through all the prompts. And it's quite similar to the style that I used for the 4 seasons a couple of weeks back. And also these designs were inspired by the designs that I came up with last year. I was just really interested in making them better and trying to improve on them as much as I possibly could. So for red, I tried to keep the outfit pretty similar to last year. I didn't end up doing all of the themed objects around the character like I did last year. I kind of didn't use that idea and instead just went with a block colour in the background just to kind of frame the character as much as possible. But I tried to add in a lot more detail and shading and depth and stuff into the characters this year because I noticed there was a distinct lack of depth and shading on the characters from last year, so that was something I was really focused on improving. So for red, I kept her outfit pretty similar. I gave her a slightly different pose. It was still kind of inspired by the character from last year. And I did attempt to keep her facial features a little bit similar too, and that's something else that I tried to do with all of the characters, but there were a couple of things I wanted to change. I made the eyes a little bit different and a little bit bigger, and I also coloured them red. Last year her eyes were green, and I can kind of understand why, because maybe I didn't want to attempt red eyes because I thought it might look creepy or something, but I just kept it a little bit more on the brownish, pinkish side this year so that it didn't look like she had bright red eyes, but it still fit with the overall colour scheme. I also used red here and there to shade the skin, just to tie the whole thing together. I really like going over the entire image either with a marker or with coloured pencils that fit the colour scheme and just tie the whole thing together by colouring different elements in the colour scheme, if that makes sense. So I like to go over the skin and use just a little hint of the overall colour, and I could really have a lot of fun with that with these particular prompts because obviously each prompt was themed around a particular colour. I could really go in and use that colour as much as possible. So I made the blush on her face really reddish. I usually use a pink shade but went all out with red on this one. Prompt number 64 was orange, and for this one, again, I tried to keep it similar to last year, inspired by last year. I really liked the combination of all the colours last year, so I only changed it slightly. I kept the hair pretty similar. I made the hair longer and just kind of bigger overall because I think that fits more with my style nowadays. I gave her a very similar outfit. I just changed the colours a little bit, like for example, I still gave her like a cardigan, but I coloured it with 2 different colours, so I used a bright orange overall and then the kind of edges and the hems were paler orange just to kind of mix it up and make sure I was getting as many different orange shades in there as possible. Again, this is another one where I changed her eye colour too. Last year her eyes were green, and this year I just went with orange just to absolutely tie it all together and use orange as much as possible. And like I was saying for red as well, I went over the skin and gave it a little bit of an orange tinge here and there. I didn't want to colour the whole thing orange, but I went with a little bit of peachy colour to shade the skin, and then added little freckles in a lot of different places too, and just went over the line art with an orange pencil as well, just to kind of add that orange colour in as much as possible. And then I used one of my favourite bright oranges for the circle in the background too, because I think that was a really nice one. Overall with these I liked to use a paler version of the colour for the background, just because I didn't want to go too dark, because I felt like maybe the character would get lost in it a little bit then, so I kept the background quite pale, but yep, I just absolutely used the colour as much as possible. And for all of these too, I added a little bit of shading with a pencil under the feet, and then added little hearts around the top and bottom of the character. I just thought it was a really cute little addition and a way to tie the entire series of characters together. So I drew them all in similar styles, gave them all similar backgrounds, and then added that little detail of the little hearts at the top and bottom, just so that all of these characters would look like a set or like a collection of characters, so they all kind of matched each other. Prompt number 65 was yellow, and again, pretty inspired by last year. This one I think is the biggest difference. I gave her quite a different silhouette to her outfit than last year. All of the others I kept the outfit pretty similar, but for yellow I just wasn't loving last year's because the dress kind of didn't allow you to see the anatomy very well, and it was very closed up, and I just felt like it didn't look right. I tried to keep the kind of neckline of the dress and the straps over the shoulders a similar shape, because last year with these characters I tried to give each of them individually completely different silhouettes to their outfit, so each of them has a different neckline on their outfit, and each of them has different lengths to like the sleeves and different lengths to the skirts or the bottoms or whatever, just so that they would all look slightly different from one another. So I did want to keep that theme this year, and I had a lot of fun with it. So I kept the dress kind of similar, but I made it a little bit shorter this year and gave her like a belt or like a bow around her waist, just to break it up a little bit. And again, I used a pale yellow for the background and made her eyes yellow to tie it all together. I think last year I used brown for the eyes. And again, did that same trick of just going over the skin with a little bit of yellow too, here and there. I didn't want to use too much, but just so that the entire colour scheme was sort of tied together somewhat. Prompt number 66 was green. Green might be my favourite character out of all of the ones that I drew. I'm not sure why, I just think it turned out really cute. Green isn't usually my favourite colour. I really thought I was going to enjoy red and orange and purple the most, but for some reason this green character turned out really cute. Again, gave the outfit a really similar silhouette to last year. I did add a little bit of differences here and there, but it's mostly the same. I just tried to add a lot more depth and shading overall, because last year all of them look really flat. I really like last year's illustrations, but yeah, there was definitely some improvement to be done, and I like this year's a lot more. So I gave her quite dark hair, and then bright colours for the clothes, and then a pale green for the background. And I also added a lot of green to her face for kind of her makeup, so it was quite easy to make her eyes green for this one, and then I gave her green lipstick as well, and a lot of green eyeshadow too. I just thought it would look so cute, and I did try and kind of do that for all of them, but I feel like it's the most prominent on this green character, and I just think it's really cute. I think her expression turned out really nice, her face looks cute. I think her pose is really simple, but I also think it's kind of adorable. I don't know why, I'm just really enthralled with this one, I really like it. Prompt number 67 was blue. And again, I tried to keep it similar to last year. One thing that I did do a little bit differently from last year is I actually swapped the skin tones of my blue and red characters, just because when I started this, it made so much more sense to me to make red's skin tone really warm toned, because red is a really warm toned colour, and then blue's a little bit more cool toned, and last year red and blue were kind of switched, so my blue character from last year had a really warm skin tone, and I made it a little bit cooler this year. So our skin tone is a little bit different, but I think it fit the overall colour scheme a little bit better. Again, I gave her a really similar outfit, but I did add some differences to the top, just making it a couple of different tones of blue rather than one tone of blue across the whole thing. I also made her hair a little bit longer this year and a slightly different colour. But I think the colours in this year's balance out a lot better than last year. Last year it looks really sort of segmented, is that a word? Like each section is just one block colour, and it doesn't really look like an overall illustration, like all the colours look really separate from one another. I don't know if that makes sense, but this year I just tried to use multiple different colours across the entire character just so that it all ties together really nicely, and I think it works for blue. And again, I gave her blue makeup, so I gave her blue lipstick and blue eyeshadow, and so there's just a lot of blue going on overall, and then I did use a little bit of blue to shade the skin a little bit. Again, just trying to tie the entire colour scheme together as best I can. And I really like Blue as a character. She's really sassy. I gave her a really curvy body type too, which I think is so cool. But yeah, I like my Blue character a lot. Prompt number 68 was purple. I didn't want to split purple up into indigo and violet just because I thought there'd be a lot of purple, and also I wanted to add a rainbow prompt at the end of these so that I could incorporate all of the colours all together in one illustration. So I just went with purple instead of splitting it up into indigo and violet. And again, I kept the outfit a really similar silhouette to last year, but I did change the colours around a little bit. So I kept the skirt a pretty similar colour, but then the top I felt like blended in too much last year. All the tones were very similar, so I tried to split them up a little bit more this year by giving her quite a pale purple for the top, just because I hadn't used pale purple for any of the other elements of the image. And then I used a sort of deeper purple for her shoes, and then a darker purple for her hair, just to kind of use all of those different tones across the whole image. And again, I just focused on giving it a lot more depth and a lot more shading and dimension than last year, because I mentioned this a couple of times, but last year's looked really flat. I also gave her a little lollipop again this year. Last year it was because I had drawn a little lollipop around each of the characters, and then the purple character was holding it. I just decided to keep that this year for no particular reason. I just thought it was cute, and it also allowed me to give her a slightly different pose where she's sort of holding one of her hands up to her face. I didn't really have any other excuse to have her hand up there, but I tried to keep all of the silhouettes of each of the characters really different from one another, so I needed one where that arm was up, or I suppose that arm's up on orange, but okay, her and orange are actually really similar, now that I'm looking at it again. But anyway, I tried to keep all of the silhouettes quite different from one another. I had each of them standing a different way, just so that they weren't all too similar. And yeah, I think purple turned out really cute. Again, I gave her purple eyes and purple makeup again, just to add as much purple into the image as I possibly could. I also gave her little bows on her shoes too, just because I thought it'd be cute, and it added a little bit of an extra element and something different to add some interest to the shoes. And finally for this video is rainbow. I had a lot of fun drawing this year, and I tried to put a lot of effort into it. Unfortunately, right off the bat, I want to say I don't like the face as much as I was hoping I would like it. I put a lot of effort into it, but it just didn't quite turn out to plan. I actually still really like my rainbow drawing from last year. It's, I think, my favourite one from the entire challenge last year, so that was kind of a lot to live up to, and I think that this year I really gave it my best shot. I kept her pose kind of similar to last year, I kept her outfit kind of similar to last year, but there are a couple of little differences here and there. Again, I wanted to keep that big rainbow above her, because I thought it was just so cute in last year's illustration. I think the hands are drawn better this year, thankfully, because I really enjoy drawing hands, and I just it would be disappointing if they ended up worse. And I kept those clouds floating around her, and I made sure to use a much brighter colour selection just to make it as bold as possible. And I made her dress kind of float around her a little bit more, just to give it a little bit more movement. Last year's does look very still and stiff, so I just tried to make it a little bit more free and flowy as much as I possibly could. This one took such a long time because there were just so many colours going on that I needed to switch back and forth between, but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed giving her rainbow eyes again. I thought that that was one of the most adorable things in last year's illustration, was that if you kind of zoom in, her eyes are all of the colours of the rainbow around the pupil, and I did that again this year because I just thought it was such a cute idea. I also gave her rainbow freckles this year instead of just like rainbow dots on her face. Like last year they're like outlined and there's just one of each colour, but I made it more freckle-like this year and gave her all different colours. Yeah, like I said, her face didn't turn out quite right. I feel like I messed up the mouth a little bit when I added the red. It kind of went over the lines, and it just ended up not looking quite as dainty and pretty as last year's, in my opinion, but I still think the hair looks really nice this year. I tried to make it really big and bold and used really bright colours for it just so that it would really stand out, and I definitely think that it fits the rainbow prompt as much as it possibly could. And I added loads of little sparkles around her with various different like gel pens and liners and with my white pen, just to add loads of little sparkles around her. I mean, I do it with all of my illustrations, so with this one I could really go all out and add loads of sparkles in every single colour of the rainbow, so that was a lot of fun. And yeah, overall, I do like this one. I am a little bit disappointed with how the face turned out. I just don't like it quite as much as I liked last year's. But overall, as an illustration, I'm a lot more proud of this one. I think that the anatomy and the pose makes a lot more sense. I really tried to make the clouds bigger and bolder, and I made the colours a lot brighter and bolder. So overall, I do really enjoy this one. So that is all the prompts from this week, all of the colours of the rainbow. I had a lot of fun with these character designs, and honestly, I genuinely enjoyed drawing every single one of these characters. For a lot of this challenge, there has been at least one prompt per week that I was kind of like, oh, I don't really want to do this one, but I kind of have to, and I forced myself. But honestly, all of these were so much fun. One of my favourite things is like designing characters and thinking about how all the colours are going to go well together, and I really felt like I had gained that back with this set of prompts. I feel like a lot of previous weeks, the more and more I get into this challenge, it's been quite difficult to stay motivated for every prompt, so I'm really glad that I have that inspiration back, and I'm really enjoying character design again and stuff like that. It's been really refreshing, honestly. And although there are some mistakes here and there and things I would do differently and things that I don't like, I think I'm always really harsh on myself when it comes to my art. But overall, I'm pretty proud of every single one of these cute characters, and I'm so happy with them. But yeah, I had so much fun with these this week. This might be my favourite week out of the whole challenge so far. Every single one of these was so much fun. I love coming up with like colour schemes and trying to tie the whole image together as much as I can. But anyway, yeah, that's all for this week, and I will hopefully be back very soon with even more prompts, because we still have a ways to go until the end of the challenge. Alright, goodbye.